Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to ask the question, is Knigobi on the short list to be the Dungeons and Dragons design lead to replace Jeremy Crawford? All right, let's get into this. What are you talking about, Scott? Are you saying some lady who has 2 years of dungeon mastering experience and just got 3,000 subscribers, same number you got, after a couple of years on YouTube, is going to replace Jeremy Crawford? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you're not wrong. This is you're like, wait a second, that's kind of weird. It is weird, but I'm not wrong. Let's get into this, right? So there is a specific structure that created this situation. So one, the situation is very strange, right? So first of all, let's define our terms. What is the design lead of Dungeons and Dragons? Okay. So right now, Dungeons & Dragons has one design lead, and it is Jeremy Crawford. Over the last 3 or 4 years, it was shared by Jeremy Crawford and Christopher Perkins, but Christopher Perkins moved over. So what is the design lead? So first of all, let me explain. So we're talking the for realsies D&D canon hardbacks, okay? This is literally the bedrock of Dungeons & Dragons canon. This is where all D&D canon originates, right? And there is canon that is now connected from other intellectual properties, but they're all connected to that core. Like right now in 5th edition and 5 improved, right? In 5th edition and 5th improved, that's the 2024 core rule books. There's this basically they have a black spine with red, and then the 2024 are inverted and they're red with some black, right? But those D&D canon hardbacks, those physical books are literally the skeleton that all the meat hangs on, right? This and the design lead is the person who's in charge of leading lore design, mechanics design, everything that goes in those books goes through the design lead, right? In all of those books. Now, each book has its own project lead, right? Like each book has a lead of its own, but the design lead is in charge of every book, and they determine the mechanic, the lore, the art, everything that makes Dungeons and Dragons most fundamental prime canon is included in this is under the purview of the design lead. Okay, now wait a second, Scott. How on earth could you make somebody who was 2 years in, just 2 years a dungeon master, how could you possibly put them into position to be the design lead of the entirety of Dungeons and Dragons? Well, we're almost there. Okay, please be patient. All right. So, first of all, there's 1,000 people who are in line ahead of Knigobi. So first of all, you could take every single man and you could take him out of the line. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'll hear you in the comments, but I'm not wrong here. So first of all, wait, Scott, why would you possibly take every man out of line, right? Well, the reason why is since 1974, there has literally never been anything but the same guy for design lead. Middle-aged white man, period, end of sentence. It has never changed. Gary was in there, Jonathan Tweet was in there, Robert Hainsue was in there, Mike Merles was in there, Jeremy Crawford was in there, Christopher Perkins, ain't nothing. It is an abominable history. It's literally the same history we had with the U.S. president before Barack Obama. I voted for Barack Obama. I'm like, you know what? I don't even care what your policies are, right? I live next to a city where 1,000 African moms every night, 1,000 African American moms every night tell their kid, hey, you can be president one day. And they've been lying to them because that ain't never happened, right? Like, and it was cruel to have, I think he was, 43. There were like 42 white presidents in a row. Dungeons and Dragons has the same problem. It's been a middle-aged white dude every single time. Literally no diversity, right? So that means every man's off the list because this has got to end. And I can tell you right now, as progressive as they are, Dungeons and Dragons is extremely aware of this problem. Extremely aware, right? I would be shocked if there is any man on the list, right, I don't believe for 1 second there is. I don't believe there's a single man on the list, because it would be perpetuating the same problem, right? And so I really feel like you could take literally every man on the list and remove them. So that means the list is extremely short. In fact, it's only 3 people, right? It's Amanda Heyman, okay? Banger, incredibly qualified. She would be an excellent pick for design lead of Dungeons and Dragons, okay? Next, Mackenzie DeArmas, brilliant. And both of these women have been project leads, right? So they have very, very good qualifications to do this, right? So now you're like, wait, well, if they're qualified, why is Knigobi in line? Okay, be patient. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. All right, okay. So, and then one more, Kelsey Dion. Kelsey Dion won't work for Dungeons and Dragons. She's not employed by Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast. But what she's done on Shadow Dark is phenomenal. She is incredible. She is incredible, right? She is charming. She's super intelligent. She is just stacking wins on wins with Shadow Dark. She's the creator of Shadow Dark. Very good candidate. All right. So Scott, if Amanda Heyman and Mackenzie DeArmas and Kelsey Dion are all super qualified, how on earth would we get Knigobi, right? Well, there's a good reason. So I was shocked to find this out, but there's something about Knigobi that none of these other women have that I think is unique and could put her at the front of the line. So first of all, she is doing exactly what those other women did, which is doing the work and showing that she can build something. So she recently got 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. It took me 10 years to do that. She did it in 2, right? Like, so she's showing that people will listen and that she can be a game changer, right? She can do actual things, right? So she's a skilled dungeon master who people will listen to, okay? Now, wait a second. You know, Amanda Heyman and Mackenzie DeArmas and Kelsey Dion are spectacular, phenomenal candidates. How on earth would Knigobi get in front of them? Well, here we go. The good and the bad of life, right? So one, Kate Welch was in this position like 5 years ago, and she had been handpicked and carefully prepared by Mike Merles to take the position. If you looked at the rise of Kate Welch, there's no two ways. She was very carefully positioned and prepared to be the first female design lead. I think anybody who pays attention to Dungeons and Dragons history is fully aware of this. And something terrible happened to her in her personal life. And I followed her Twitter because I was super invested in this subject, right? And I have a sense of what happened, and it was very, very sad. And it just took her out. Like, she had a personal event in her life that took her out of the running, where she wasn't personally available to do the work, right? And it was terrible. And you'll find coverage on Kate Welch right here. I cover every single woman in the world who has a possibility of being the D&D design lead, right? I cover D&D meta, and not many people do. My content is extremely unique, right? So, yeah, so I know what I'm talking about here. If you, DYOR, if you think I'm wrong, go take a look, right? So, and I think you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So one, any and all of those women could have the same. In fact, I would be surprised if one of them didn't have a situation like that come up on the bad side or on the good side, right? They win the lottery. They get chosen by here's another one. This happens all the time, and a lot of people don't know this, but in tabletop role-playing games, Mike Pondsmith, one of the most brilliant tabletop role-playing designers in the world, and he got tired of just working for chump change. He's in the video game industry now, making 10 times what he made and he was, frankly, I think, fully responsible for Cyberpunk 2077, right? Like, which I think billions were made on that game, right? So not only could a bad thing happen to any of them, but a good thing could happen to them to take them out of the running, right? So that is one way why one or two or even, and then here's the other one. Kelsey Dion is a perfect fit, but Kelsey Dion has been sending a lot of signals that she wants to keep Shadow Dark small, and she doesn't want to blow up her life, right? She doesn't want to sacrifice her life for Dungeons and Dragons. And I will say right now, I think it is going to be extremely difficult for whoever comes in. it is going to be a rough storm ride, right? And Kelsey Dion, she got a great life. Just travels from con to con, doing Shadow Dark, and she living the life, man. Like she don't need it. She seriously, and this is going to be extremely difficult. So Kelsey Dion could be out, right? Now, okay, let's say that all of them stay in the slot. How would Knigobi beat all three of these highly qualified women who've literally led books before? Well, here we go. It's how Knigobi Dungeon Masters, which is the future of Dungeons and Dragons. I was shocked to learn this. I've been very blessed to have some back and forth. I make a video. I never send my stuff to Knigobi. Or I talk about a lot of people on this channel from the perspective. I don't talk about people just willy-nilly. I talk about people if you are in the track of D&D meta, right? And so I talk about a lot of people on this channel, and I talk openly and transparently. I'm completely independent. I've literally never made a dime on my channel. I'm not bought, right? And so I covered the industry, right? And I don't ever send my videos to anyone ever, right? Because that ain't what this is about. It's about talking to you. It ain't about me talking to them. But pretty much, like, this is a small community. People are like, hey, Professor Dungeon Master Scott's talking about you, and they forward a video, right? And he may or may not watch it, right? But I don't know how, but Knigobi knows every time I do a video, right? I'm sending them to her. She knows, right? And so she would come in the comments and talk to me, and she said something which shocked me in the comments. And she said, I don't read the Dungeon Master Guide. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? You can't Dungeon Master without reading the Dungeon Master Guide. And she's like, no, I don't read the Dungeon Master Guide. So I played Dungeons and Dragons for a while, and I saw how a good Dungeon Master does the job. And then I listened to a thousand very good YouTube videos. And I was like, what? I was shocked. I was like, that is incredible, right? And she explained that, I don't think she has a learning disability. I think that might be the wrong term, but she doesn't process things that she reads as well as things that she sees done or that she listens to, right? And I'm like, whoa, that is literally the future of Dungeons and Dragons, right? Because I think if you could get Dungeons and Dragons to people who don't read, oh my gosh. Like, we would go from, right now, top number, 50 million people playing D&D all over the world. Dude, if you could sell this, if you had somebody who could sell this to people who don't read, right, extensively, Knigobi is literate, she can read, right, but she doesn't read extensively. If you could get this to non-readers, not non-illiterates, non-readers, I hope you understand that distinction, you could go from 50 million to 500 million. We could have 500 million people in D&D. That's why Knigobi is unique. And that's why I think she's the fourth woman. She is the fourth person. There are no men on the list, because there can't be. We can't do this for 60 years, right? We've done it for 50 years. It would be abominable to do it another year, right? If they do this again, it's a problem. It's a problem now, right? Like, this has got to get fixed, right? There's only 4 people. I think the short list for D&D design lead is Amanda Heyman, and in this order. Amanda Heyman, she's the top dog. Knigobi, Kelsey Dion, and then Mackenzie Darmus. I actually think Knigobi is on the short list to be the D&D design lead. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Not a thing more, not a thing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion in the comments below. Please consider subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.